For the latest in strategic affairs, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Click the bell icon for updates.
Hello and welcome to the Gist on Strat News Global. I am Surya Gangadharan, and in this evening we are going to mark or celebrate a seminal event. 2 billion COVID vaccinations. India has crossed that magic figure, which means that around 90% of the 97% of the adult population has received one dose, and 90% of the adult population has received the second dose. As you're aware, the precautionary third dose, which the government has mandated, is now underway. So we expect that there'll be more good news coming in the weeks ahead. Let me bring in my guest here, Anil Padmanabhan of Capital Calculus, soon to be launching a show on Strat News Global, where he will cover policy, economics, business, trade, technology. Anil, welcome. Glad to have you.
Thank you, Surya. Thank you for having me.
So, first question: 2 billion jabs. We've crossed that magic figure. Is this a world record?
Yes, Surya, if we keep China out of the picture, since China is like a black box, we really don't know what goes on in there. They play smoke and mirrors with their data. So if we keep them off the table, definitely this is a world record. And frankly, India has vaccinated 3 times the size of the US population. So I'm rather surprised that it's not getting the kind of media play that it should.
Yeah, that's unusual. So when you look at it, this entire exercise that we've witnessed over the last 1.5 years, 2 years, different strands have come together. You know, our software skills, our health workers, health professionals, private industry, of course. It's quite an exercise when you look at it. You know, I mean, given the fact that we were dealing with the pandemic for the very first time and we knew very little about it.
Oh, absolutely, Surya. I think it's a terrific team effort. I really don't know where we should begin apportioning credit. Should we begin with COVID warriors who kind of risked their lives and were right up there battling the worst of COVID-19? Many of them lost their lives fighting the battle for us. Or should we look at the back end where which created the idea of one nation, one jab to seamlessly deliver 2 billion vaccines? Or should we look at the government, which never took its eyes off its objective despite severe criticism, both internally and externally, and second guessing? And of course, should we begin with the people of India who kind of steadfastly remained committed to be a very key stakeholder in this? So all in all, Surya, it's a tremendous team effort. And for me, it's a massive lesson in actually a master class India has unveiled for the rest of the world. It's also a lesson in huge self-belief for a nation which is struggling with developing country challenges, which is what India is about. But despite that, we have managed to come out with a world-class product in work standards. So to me, this is very important because in a country like India, change is not easy. So we should celebrate even small victories, and this certainly is a big victory. So I would finally say a salute to India.
You mentioned one nation, one jab. Can you elaborate?
See, Surya, this is actually a very important part of the play. There were 2 strategic moves the government of India did at that right up front. One was they staggered the jabs. So first the medical personnel were up for the jab. Then came the 60 plus, which were the comorbid, very vulnerable category. Then they opened up to 45 and 60, and then they went now to the younger cohorts. But simultaneously, they realized that in a nation of 1.3 billion people, of course, at that time, initial target was 900 million people. How do you deliver this vaccine? The logistic is a nightmare. You don't have the infrastructure. This vaccine was perishable, so and they were in limited supply. So you needed some system which kind of ensured, which covered all these gaps, as it were. And they came up with a tech stack, which is the CoWIN platform. So what CoWIN did was that you could log in. Initially, they linked it to Aadhaar. Subsequently, they opened it to other IDs too. So you could log in anywhere, pick up a center, which can be close to you, or anywhere where you see there's not much of a crowd. You can go paid or non-paid, and you register, and you turn up at that particular point of time, and you get the jab. So now suppose, let's take your example. You took your first jab in Delhi and then you have to travel to Chennai on some work, but you're due for your second jab. So normal course you would have lost out. But because of this one nation, one jab, you just logged into the CoWIN platform in Chennai and you registered for a jab in, say, T Nagar, and you took the jab and you are done. And similarly, for anybody, India is a country with enormous migrant labor. It's about 400 million people who migrate around the country. So imagine them, they need a job, they need to be vaccinated, they need to be safe. So how do you do it? So one nation, one jab was a very important element of this logistics, the game that was played by India.
In a sense, it could mark the coming of age, perhaps, of our software industry developing, solutions to problems, very Indian solutions to a very, a problem that had really no solutions in any other part of the world.
Oh yes, Surya. I think this is it's actually a reinforcing a very unique invention that India has managed to get. I mean, become part of a unique global conversation called the digital public goods. So, beginning with Aadhaar, India has never looked back. So,
Yeah.
just to briefly explain, a digital public good is unlike proprietary platforms. So, and the thing is that you take a problem and you unpack it into several blocks, just like as kids we used to play building blocks. So, you could build a house, you could build a road, you could build a wall, it's up to you. So, they were blocks of yours. So, imagine digital blocks like that. So, you stack them up. At the base is Aadhaar, which identifies you. Then you have a payments block. So, and in the case of COVID, you have an electronic registry. So, which is very important, which is the complex process I unpacked for you that you could register anywhere in the country. That is based on one of these digital public goods. So, this has become India's signature. And I personally think it's a very important calling card for soft power as far as India goes. So if you look back, traditionally, what is the big soft power that India is known about? It's cuisine, chicken tikka masala and a range of Indian cuisine. Then you have Bollywood. You go back to Raj Kapoor's, how he wooed the then Soviet Union with his songs, his music, and his films. And of course, then beginning from the millennium, you had all our masters like Hussein and Raja and all these people, how their art started getting global fancy. But now with digital public goods, this is something which is a new conversation, and it is increasingly coming onto center stage because tech platforms are under now severe scrutiny of regulators. More and more going forward, you're going to see checks and balances. So you have an alternate which looks at digital public goods, which is basically inclusive. So if you look at the Indian story on digital public goods, you have of course CoWIN, then you have Aadhaar, you have one nation, one ration card, you have GST, you have UPI. Sorry, I forgot the most important thing which touches all of us. So these are all digital public goods, product of digital public goods. So it's a huge signature for India, and I personally think they're calling card in terms of soft power.
Mhm. Are you aware of any of these public digital assets that we've built up? Are they being, kind of marketed overseas? You believe they could be a market overseas?
Oh yes, it's beginning to catch currency. So recently you had this Vivo at France hosted. India was first time they took a country partner, and India was part of it. And the reason was India was showcasing its digital public goods. So you had a very global, high-profile event where India was a center of attraction. That apart, India has already started conducting conversations. So CoWIN, for example, was last year India held a virtual meeting. 140 countries attended, and I think last week Guyana just signed a deal with India on using the CoWIN platform for their vaccination process. Now, the thing with CoWIN platform is it's not just about vaccination. It can be used for other purposes too. So it is now can be kind of retooled. Now that the vaccine pressure is over, it can be used for immunization. It can be used for organ donation. It can be used for anything because we have tested it very successfully.
I have a question from a viewer, Jaydeep Gadavi. Is it too much to ask when Indian made jabs are used in developed countries? Aren't they already?
Actually, the Indian-made jab we are talking of is CoWIN, but COVAX, which is the AstraZeneca version, is a
Yeah.
global vaccine. So India was just producing it here.
Yeah.
So in it's AstraZeneca is used the most commonly
Worldwide.
used jab in the world against COVID is AstraZeneca, and India is producing it here. But no, CoWIN, the COVAX, sorry, I think it's COVAX or CoWIN. Uh, COVAX, sorry. They are not yet out on the market, at least not to my knowledge.
I want to come to our health infrastructure. Um, the pandemic has forced the government to address the rather ramshackle state of our medical infrastructure. In that sense, do all these things come together to build that?
Surya, it's a very important question you asked because what COVID-19 pandemic did was to expose the worst kept secret in this country is that our health structure, infrastructure is well past the date.
Yeah.
So I remember coming across a CAG audit, which is I think 2 3 years old, which said that in terms of medical personnel, our shortage is 75% less of the target. So you basically have only a quarter of what you should
Yeah.
have in medical personnel. So it's that bad. Our health spending nationally as a percentage of GDP is 3 to 4%, and it has hovered around that for a long time. You for a developed world, it's 5 times that. So in India is not spent on health. We have neglected it, and then on top of it, the disease burden has changed. So you now have earlier it was communicable diseases, so India was a severe victim of that. But now lifestyle changes, everything has contributed to non-communicable diseases becoming a pandemic, a kind of not pandemic, but epidemic proportions. You see diabetes, heart attacks, everything related to lifestyle. So now all these things, what they do is they stack up in out of pocket expenses for you since you don't have a public health infrastructure.
Yeah.
So you can't fix this overnight. What COVID-19 did was it told you that all bets are off. You can't proceed like this anymore. So there are two approaches the government has adopted, which has actually been in the making for a while, but it has now got momentum post-COVID. One is you have that Ayushman Bharat, which has insured 600 million people in this country, the poor. So up to a certain cap, their health expenses are covered. There's no cash outgo for them. It's a big relief. On the other side, they have ramped up medical hospitals being opened up both in private and public sector. So there've been, I don't remember the exact numbers, but there's been a very sharp surge in the last 2 3 years. So in terms of supply, you are fixing the problem. In terms of mitigating your household expenses, you're fixing the problem. But like I said, this can't be fixed overnight. So you need to fight this battle continuously.
I find it fascinating, Anil, the manner in which our software industry has really come up to this challenge. I mean, when you look back, the entire, I mean, this is across political boundaries. The entire Aadhaar thing was built up many years ago, and although it moved slowly, I mean, today we are seeing the benefit of that. So, in that sense, we are in terms of software, we are where are we heading? I mean, when you look at it, I mean, the sky's the
See,
limit.
no, actually, you're right. Aadhaar was the starting point of a pivot that India undertook of bringing tech to address problems of scale on in at cost-effective terms. So Aadhaar was, the key form was identity. Till Aadhaar happened, I think I don't know the exact numbers, but more than two-thirds of the people struggle to get an identity. Even you and I
Yeah,
would struggle. We would need a gazetted officer to
yeah,
attest who we are.
yeah,
Today for a passport, for example, you just give your Aadhaar and all your details are there. They verify it, so the back end is sorted. Then of course they have a usual police checkup and verification, but that's like a cursory thing. I mean, if you are generally kosher, you should not have a problem. So, but identity was where it all started. And then very early they realized that that is just one part of the game. So you need to now take it up to the separate level. So they started discovering issue on payments because they found that yes, the ATM was a big development. It solved a lot of problems for. We didn't need to go to bank branches and suffer uh, the rigors
yeah,
of dealing with tellers and
yeah,
checkers and whatever. It was a
that's
1 hour ordeal. So
yeah.
ATM was, yes, a big progress. You could walk up anywhere and take it. But then they said that, look, you need to figure out how people can pay anywhere, any place using not necessarily an ATM. And that's where the whole idea of UPI took off. So you see, progressively you have moved. You went from Aadhaar, which gave you the identity layer, then you went discovered UPI, you found a payments layer. So, like I told you right at the early part of our conversation, that you were building digital blocks. These were two key digital blocks. Now you're using two of them to create ONDC, which is the new rival to online. I mean, the business of online is going to get severely disrupted. So if you look at the India story using the India stack, the tech stack, it has been a case of massive disruption, yes, but massive inclusion too. So I mean, you can go as much, spend as much as 1 rupee on your UPI. You can pay for a transaction as low as 1 rupee, and you can go high too. So in the sense, you have got a scale, you are reaching everybody, and I think about 70% of the transactions are all small denomination, which basically tells you the people are using it. It's not like you and I who are using it, it's the general people of this country, which is a very good thing. So now you are seeing the latest innovation is the national language platform,
Yeah.
which is on the anvil. And that is again built on an open architecture. Now, this is again taking advantage of smartphones and this whole public digital assets to create, probably to me the biggest game changer that is going to come up is take internet to people in their language.
So when you step back and look at our digital landscape, where are we worldwide? I mean, if you want to rank India somewhere, where would we figure?
See, Surya, if you looked at pre Aadhaar, we were talking about application software, which was a domain of the United States. And then, of course, you had China, which came in with WeChat and all these very mass applications. Post 2009, when Aadhaar was introduced, and of course, it took off in 11, but really accelerated from 14. And thereafter, India's now right up there. We are world class now. You're a world class product. You generate world class stuff. And whether you look at CoWIN, you look at UPI, you are right up there. So you have broken through and you are now in a world beater category. And most important, these are very mass application oriented. So they will benefit everybody.
Where do you see this going then? Finally, I mean, TK, we have in fact empowered millions of our people, made them aware what government benefits are for them and how to access them. Uh, when you look at education, is that the next big thing waiting to happen? In a sense, it's already happening. We can see it, but is that where it's heading?
See, that's where, Surya, what I just told you about bringing internet and content to you in local languages will
Huh.
completely revolutionize education. So today, only the Supreme Court of India, as SUAS it's called, they translate their judgments into 9 languages. And these are now made it easier for people to track legal judgments. Now imagine you do this in 22 languages, you take courses, you take classes, which is not there right now. So 90% of the content is still in English. So you will have a huge battle there. So to me, education will be cracked the day we crack the language puzzle, which is on the anvil, which is going to happen probably in a few years.
So on this day, um, what would you say is, we've crossed milestones here. The third precautionary dose is on the way. Where do we go from here? Can you envisage 100% vaccination? I mean, that seems a bit unreal, but it's possible, isn't it?
See, for infants and children, it's still an issue on whether you can vaccinate or not vaccinate. But to me, follow the direction. Whether you're at 100% or not, it doesn't matter. You are at two-thirds at this point. So the last mile will happen. But if I had to, one big takeaway to me, the CoWIN story is a reiteration of inclusion. So millions of people who were always used to looking inside from outside are
Yeah.
now going to look outside from inside. To me, that is a game changer.
Yeah, great note to end on, Anil. Thanks very much. And as I may again restate what I said earlier, that Anil will be joining Strategies Global on with his own show, Capital Calculus, where he'll be looking at issues like some of the issues that we discussed today. Anil, great having you, and looking forward to next week. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Surya.
And for those of you who joined us on this conversation, do subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on social media, Instagram, Twitter. Thank you and good night.